Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our today's topic in Word Englishes is current debates and issues in Word Englishes, and we will have a look at some of the major trends in this field as it has developed in the last 3 or 4 decades or so. Over the last few decades, the terms Word Englishes and New Englishes have been widely used to refer to the localized form of English found throughout the world, particularly with reference to the Caribbean, West and East Africa, and some parts of Asia. From the early 1980s onwards, in various branches of linguistics, research and publications on Word Englishes have contributed to a paradigm shift in English studies. Over the last 2 decades, especially, there has been a growing recognition of Englishes in the plural, as in varieties of English, international Englishes, new Englishes, English languages, and the last few decades have also seen the publication of numerous academic articles on these topics, with 4 international academic journals, including Asian Englishes, English Today, English Worldwide, and Word Englishes, specializing in such studies, as well as increasing number of book-length studies on related topics. A number of distinct approaches to research and publishing in the field of Word Englishes are now recognized, and these include English studies, social linguistics, applied linguistics, lexicography, popularizer approaches, and critical linguistics. We are talking about on these topics in a while. Although it should be noted that there are significant overlaps between these approaches that we have just seen. So there is significant overlaps between these approaches. For example, many social linguists do work in English studies. Social linguists do work in English studies. Applied linguistic studies cut across multiple boundaries. Corpus linguistics informs a number of fields, etc. So here we see they are independent fields, but there is a notable overlap between these approaches. Here we will just talk about approaches to Word Englishes presented by Kingsley Bolton, and from English studies to linguistic imperialism journey. Perhaps the earliest attempts to study Word Englishes came from an English studies approach associated with Randolph Kirk and a number of other scholars associated with the Survey of English Usage at University College London, including David Crystal and Derek Davy. Quirk's intellectual training included Anglo-Saxon Germanic philosophy and the history of English, and he shared with his colleagues a concern with the description of the structure of English, especially of syntax, against which matters of variation were typically measured. Other scholars in this field have included Birchfield, Greenbaum, Quirk and Widdowson, and MacArthur. The work of these UK-based scholars has been complemented by the Anglistic of Goralch and Schneider. The objectives of this approach, English studies approach, were to describe varieties of English from eclectic, descriptive, and historical perspectives. So this approach was situated against a tradition of English studies that's known as Anglistic, dating from the late 19th century. For example, the work of Otto Jespersen, Daniel Jones, and Henry Sweet. Its timeline begins from 1960s and still alive. In many senses, recent initiatives in English corpus linguistics may be seen as an extension of the earlier English studies tradition, and the survey of English usage continues to play a major role in the field. The main objective of English corpus linguistics was to provide accurate and detailed linguistic descriptions of word Englishes, and the main exponents of this approach were Greenbaum, Nelson, Mayer, etc., and timeline from 1909 to present. The sociology of language. So here we have some socio-linguistic approaches. To word Englishes have included the sociology of language, the linguistic feature-based approach, and Pigeon and Carroll studies, and socially realistic studies of word Englishes. So we'll go get to them one by one. The first one is the sociology of language. So the main exponents of this approach were Fishman, Cooper, and Conrad Fishman et al. And others. The main objectives of the approach were to conduct research on English in relation to such issues as language maintenance, shift, and ethno-linguistic identity. And timeline is 1960s to present. A feature-based approach, the second approach of sociolinguistic approaches. The main exponents of this approach, Trudgill and Hanna. The objectives of the approach were to describe varieties of English through dialectological and variationist methodologies. Approach was situated against the long tradition of British and European dialectology. So it started in 1980s and still going on. The main objectives of Kachruvian studies were to promote a pluricentric approach to word Englishes, highlighting both the social-linguistic realities and bilingual creativity of outer circle and expanding circle societies. The use of word Englishes term is most closely associated with the work of Braj Kachru. The timeline for this is 1980s till present, and you can see here the exponents of this approach are Kachru, Smith, Lowenberg, Gupta, Pakir, and others. Prominent scholars in the field of Pigeon and Carroll studies include Todd, Muhalswar, Romani, Hom, Saba, and Mufwine. Some of the names are no English, so it's difficult to pronounce, but anyway, I tried my best. The main objective of this approach was to describe and analyze mixed languages and the dynamics of linguistic hybridization. So beginning with the early work of Hugo Schuchart, and this timeline of this approach is 1930s to present. Applied linguistic approaches date from Halliday, McIntosh, and Strevens to Kachru and Brown and Law. The main objectives of this approach was to explore the implications of word Englishes for language learning and teaching. So it started from, in 1960s until present. Lexicographical approaches in the inner circle date from early American dictionaries and glossaries like Pickering in 1816, Webster 1828, Bartlett in 1848, through to recent national dictionaries such as the Canadian Oxford Dictionary by Barber in 1999, the Australian Macquarie Dictionary by Butler in 1981, and the Dictionary of New Zealand English by Osman in 1997, and a Dictionary of South African English on historical principles by Silva in 1998. So this is about the inner circle lexicographical approach, lexicographical work. In outer circle, South Asia developed its own tradition of glossaries and word lists, which includes Whitworth's An Anglo-Indian Dictionary in 1885 and Yule and Burnell's Hobson Jobson, that was a glossary of Anglo-Indian words and phrases. It was first published in 1886 and then in 1969 revised edition. Later works have included Rao in 1954 and Hawkins in 1984, although no fully autonomous national dictionary for India or other South Asian societies has appeared. In the outer circle for the Caribbeans, there are Cassidy and Lee Page's Dictionary of Jamaica English in 1967 and Home and Schilling's Dictionary of Bahamian English in 1982, as well as the recent Dictionary of Caribbean English Usage, Alsop in 1996. The main objective of the lexicography approach was to fulfill a range of objectives, including the expression of national linguistic identity. So this timeline is from 1980s to present within the word English's context. By the mid-1980s, a number of popular works intended for a general reading audience began to appear. The most successful of these popularizers were probably Macrum, Cran, and McNeill, whose The Story of English in 1986 was published in concert with a popular BBC television series. While Macrum and others were essentially non-linguists, professional language scholars such as David Crystal also soon began writing for a popular audience with such titles as The English Language in 1988, the Cambridge Encyclopedia of the English Language in 1995, English as a Global Language in 1997, and The Stories of English in 2004. The objective of popularizers' approach was to interest a mass reading public in issues related to word Englishes. As timeline is from 1980s to 1990s, so it's no more now in present. So a spell is about 10 years or so. Critical approaches include Philipson's landmark linguistic imperialism, which has encouraged a keen interest in the politics of English since its publication. Philipson has inspired a group of other scholars, including the legend Penny Cook. The objective of critical linguistics approach was to express resistance to the linguistic imperialism and cultural hegemony of English. It was derived from a Marxian political analysis and or post-colonial theory. its timeline from 1990 to present. The futurology perspective is best represented by Gradle's The Future of English, which in the pre-9/11 era appeared to project the vision of a growing world middle class adopting English as an additional language, particularly in the Asian region. And its objective was to predict future trends in the spread of English and English language teaching worldwide. So its time is from 1997 to present. Here we will see now Kachru's 3 circles of English. Here we see Kachru's 3 circles of English. This model explains the spread of English in the world. We have here 3 circles: the inner circle, outer circle, and expanding circle. In inner circle, countries like US and UK are included. In outer circle, countries like India, Nigeria, and expanding circle, countries like China, Russia, and Brazil are included. So we will see details about these circles in coming slides. Here, let's see what this model is. Kachru's 3 circles of English. What this model actually is. This is the most influential model of spread of English. Okay. So in this model, the distribution of English is or classification of English is captured in terms of 3 concentric circles of the language: the inner circle, the outer circle, the expanding circle, as we just saw in the diagram. The first one is the inner circle. The inner circle refers to English as it originally took shape and was spread across the world in the first diaspora. So this is it. It refers to English as it originally took shape and was spread across the world in the first diaspora. So in this transplantation of English, speakers from England carried the language to Australia, New Zealand, and North America. The inner circle, therefore, represents the traditional, historical, and socio-linguistic basis of English in the regions where it is now used as a primary language. So countries included in the inner circle where English is now used as a primary language are the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Anglophone Canada, and South Africa. Not full Canada and full South Africa, only the Anglophone part of Canada and South Africa, and some of the Caribbean territories. English is the native language or mother tongue of most people in these countries. The total number of English speakers in the inner circle is as high as 380 million, of whom some 120 million are outside the United States. So it means 260 million are in the US and the rest in other countries. The second circle of the 3 circles is outer circle. The outer circle of English was produced by the second diaspora of English, which spread the language through imperial expansion by Great Britain in Asia and Africa. So the first inner circle was produced by the first diaspora, the first migration of people from England, and they took this English language with them and they spread it in the English speaking countries. That was the first migration, and that's known as first diaspora of English, first migration of English that produced the inner circle, and the outer circle was produced by the second diaspora of English, which spread the language through imperial expansion by Great Britain in Asia and Africa. So in these regions, English is not, I mean, when the Great Britain conquered different countries, so they took English also with them. English went with them there, and it was spread in those regions, and that produced the outer circle of English. In these regions, English is not the native tongue, but serves as a useful lingua franca between ethnic and language groups. So here it's not the native tongue, but it serves as a useful lingua franca between ethnic people and the language groups. Higher education, the legislature and judiciary, national commerce, and so on may all be carried out predominantly in English. So English language runs all these departments in those countries, in the countries of outer circle. But this is not the native tongue, but it serves these major operations in those countries. The countries in this circle include India, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, Tanzania, Kenya, non-Anglophone South Africa, the Philippines, colonized by the US and others. The total number of English speakers in the outer circle is estimated to range from 150 million to 300 million people. Singapore, while in the outer circle, may be drifting into the inner circle as English becomes more often used as a home language, so much as Ireland did earlier. So Singapore is drifting into the inner circle because English has become, the use of English is increasing there. Countries where most people speak an English-based Creole and retain standard English for official purposes, such as Jamaica and Papua New Guinea, are also in the outer circle. Here we have the third circle, the expanding circle. The expanding circle encompasses countries where English plays no historical or governmental role, but where it is nevertheless widely used as a medium of international communication. So it's not the native tongue of people there, and it plays no historical or government role, so it's not the official language of those countries, but it's used as a medium of international communication. The expanding circle includes much of the rest of the world's population not categorized above. So we are using here a very safe comment. So much of the rest of the world's population comes, which is not categorized in the inner circle or in the outer circle, that comes definitely in the expanding circle. I don't think there is any country on the globe which does not use English for international communication, at least. But anyway, it's possible, maybe we don't know, but there are some countries. That's why we say here, so much of the rest of the country, not all of the rest of the countries, which are not categorized in circle, inner circle and outer circle. So anyway, here, so we have the list including territories such as China, Nepal, Russia, Japan, non-Anglophone Europe, especially the Netherlands, Nordic countries, South Korea, Egypt, and China. China again. Okay, anyway. The total in this expanding circle is the most difficult to estimate. It's very difficult to total the exact number of the people who, in this circle, especially because English may be employed for specific limited purposes, usually in a business context. The estimates of these users range from 100 million to 1 billion. So this is a very strange estimate, by the way. Now we see here the three circles and their relationship with the norms. The inner circle, like UK, USA, and other native English-speaking countries, is norm providing. The inner circle is norm providing. That means that English language norms are developed in these countries. The outer circle is norm developing. In outer circle, norms are developed, and the expanding circle, which includes much of the rest of the world, is norm dependent, because it relies on the standards set by native speakers in the inner circle. All right, here, thank you very much. So this lecture is to be continued to the second part of this topic, current issues and debates. So let's see in a while for the second part of this lecture. So stay connected. Thank you.